Hello there.
Hello.
Hello there, hello there, hello there, and happy Sunday, and thank you. Thank you for joining us. Today is Sunday, October 23rd. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
Amy Bones Nasir.
Amy Bones Nasir. Halloween is right around the corner. The corner's over there, and it's right just behind it. We're going to be talking a little bit of Halloween today, but you know, we get a big Sunday special next Sunday. Because
yes.
Halloween is 8 days away.
Yes.
That means we get it today, we get it next Sunday, and then we will celebrate on Monday. Let me just make sure I've got my chat here, because I see Equal to Reality is in the chat and says, let me grab a decaf. That came up on my Thursday show. You might not have heard that one yet. But, you know, what I love about this show is my co-host. I love her two pieces. Well, it's Halloween. I love her chopped into pieces. No, I love her to pieces. And I do a show on Wednesdays with James Valiant, and he's great. And what happens is, if you have a show with somebody, you can take this here. You can take this coffee, and if you take too long to drink your coffee, it doesn't matter, because your co-host will say something.
Yes, I am. And the one thing I'd like to say real quick is that I don't think we're coming through on Facebook.
Try, let's see here. Oh, you're right. It looks stalled, doesn't it? Why is that stalled? Let me hit the play button here. And
okay, it looks like it's live there.
Yeah,
but
it looks heavily delayed. I'm just going to refresh that. You wouldn't think it was that big a deal, but you know, we love the chat. That's half the fun, maybe 3/4 of the fun of doing this. So there we go. Looks like it is live, and we have Monica and Brian in the chat on Facebook. So you see, got to make sure we've got all the bases covered. You know, we do multicast, unlike some of those shows that are only on YouTube or only on Facebook Live. We are in both places for you, because wherever you are, that's where we want to be. And yes, so Equal to Reality remembers on Thursday I mentioned, well, I do that show all by myself. Should I even be drinking coffee? Is it too rude to stop and take a drink? And fortunately, my producer put it up for a vote. And the people in the chat voted that I should continue to have coffee during the show.
all right.
Yes.
Good.
And I mentioned it's not a caffeine addiction, because sometimes I'll have decaf. It's just I like a hot cup of coffee, and Equal to Reality says, let me grab a decaf. So there we go, right in the chat, affirmation. I'm validated.
Yes.
Where would
You
I
have
be?
been seen.
That's right. Where would I be without validation? So thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, and today is Sunday, October 23rd. This is the 296th day. By the time we do another show, we'll be over the 300, over that threshold. So
yes.
if this year isn't already your best year yet, if there is anything we can do to help you with that, give you ideas, encourage you, or just decide that it's good enough and you're just going to be happy, because that's what today's show will be about, let us know. Let us know in the chat or in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. Oh, Petia's in the chat too. How wonderful. So lovely to see you there in the chat. Brian says, multicast, watch your language. I am all about the multicast, baby, and you are not going to stop me. Christmas is 63 days away. You've got 63 days. It's basically 2 months to shop. 32 days until Thanksgiving. For you folks who are in Southeast Michigan, by the way, GLOW, Great Lakes Objectivists, will be in effect for Thanksgiving. We are going to put on a Thanksgiving bash. Okay, I don't know how big it'll be or how modest, but it's going to happen. Man, we got knocked out during COVID. Now, we did have some GLOW events already this year, but as far as the monthly dinners go, that's been hard to ramp back up.
Yes. Yeah, so it's going to be a big deal. In years past, we've had such extravagant GLOW dinners, and we've had, I'm not promise anything this time for November this time, but we've had prime rib, we've had crown pork roast, made on the grill, which turned out absolutely fabulous. We had big turkeys and all kinds of things. So it's going to be great.
Thanksgiving in 32 days. GLOW Thanksgiving will be before that. We will let you know when that happens. If you are local, if you're not, be very jealous. Yes, and on this date, we wish a happy birthday to soccer. Well, around the world, they would say football. Superstar Pelé was born on this date, 1940. He's still with us. He's 82 years old. Basically, the man who brought soccer to the United States. Not that he was a player in the United States. He was Brazilian, but he was such a superstar that even Americans who only knew football as pigskin, as gridiron, we finally began to appreciate what the rest of the world calls football. So happy birthday to Pelé. It's also Alfred Matthew Yankovic's, Weird Al Yankovic's birthday. Weird Al is 63 years old today.
Weird Al Yankovic has been big influence on my life. I hope he's been a big influence on your life. He started basically, in the 80s, in the early 80s, maybe the late 70s, I'm not sure. But I was just a wee thing. I was about 12 years old when I had my very first Weird Al Yankovic album, which happened to be...
What was it?
Dare to be Stupid.
Dare to be Stupid.
Which was a loving tribute to the band Devo, an original from Weird Al Yankovic, in the style of Devo, and it was just great. It was just perfect. And I'm a huge Devo fan, and that all works together.
I was amused by Weird Al Yankovic and his MTV videos and his parody songs on kind of a lighter level until Amy and her passion for Weird Al Yankovic drew me in. And we went to see him live. And, I knew he was a good accordion player, and I knew that he was a good jokester. He was funny. That doesn't tell the story. He is a master of his craft. He's an outstanding musician, an extraordinary showman. And, he's also awfully funny. But then the second time we went to see him, we bought into the meet and greet package.
Yes. And I actually got to have a couple of minutes talking with him. He was with me. He was there, and he wasn't anywhere else. He was there with me.
Now, if that doesn't sound totally extreme, the package included a photograph with Weird Al Yankovic. Mm-hmm. And you weren't going to hang out with him. He had things to do. So they said, you've got 30 seconds for your group. There were 5 of us, including Al, for your group to get your photograph, say hi, and then move on so other people can get in. So we got there, and we took the photograph, and just the nicest guy you want to meet, super genuine, has him do the photograph more than once to make sure we got it, and then talks to us. He's not in any hurry to move the line, which may have been rude to the rest of the line, except I'm sure they got the same earnest, honest, what a guy.
Yeah, and I got to drop some kind of obscure references to him, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. I grew up with it was basically a comic strip, that you would actually get in the old-fashioned newspapers on Sunday, right?
Newspapers that were paper?
Yes, they were actually paper.
Wow. Do we have any oldsters in the chat here who remember newspapers?
Yeah, but it was not black and white. It was in color. But the comic strip was called Arnold. It was by Kevin McCormick, and it was the strangest comic in the world. And there was also Mr. Boffo, which he knew as well.
Yep.
So if anybody knows what I'm talking about, you get 10 brownie points for me, because Arnold and Mr. Boffo, those were my 2 favorite comic strips when I was a teenager.
Super awesome.
Wee thing.
Now, we've got folks telling us that the broadcast is rough. And my program reports that it's actually dropped 65% of frames, which is kind of a lot, because usually it's 0. So let me just take a quick look. And then we went to saw Weird Al Yankovic a third time when he played with an orchestra, and that was, just super cool in every way that you would want it to be. So good stuff. Sorry, just looking at the broadcast here. It's also the birth date of the late Randy Pausch. If you've never seen Randy Pausch, a computer science professor, human-computer interaction and design expert at Carnegie Mellon University, you've got to see his last lecture. It's well known. It's actually called The Last Lecture. And sorry, I'm also looking at the computer at the same time here, but a link to it is in the show notes. Show notes for this episode have already been posted at YouTube, so if you look at the YouTube description, you're going to find 10, 20, 30, 7,000 links. Okay, maybe a dozen, but a link to that last lecture is there in the show notes. CPU 7.9%, 60 frames per second. Oh, I don't know. Let's see here. Tell me in the chat if it seems to be getting better or if it's just pretty bad all the way through. because I'm not seeing it on my feedback machine here.
Yeah, let me tap into my...
But I don't have audio going, because of course that would sound bad. So,
yeah, let us know if it's it's just what you're seeing in terms of the video, or if it's the audio quality as well.
yeah, because that's not good. Computers, I wonder if it's just our internet got slow. We actually increased our internet speed by 250% a week or two ago. And maybe they're having issues with that, but okay. Yeah, I'm just seeing you showing off your glass there, and yeah, it's stalling. Sorry about this, folks. I always hate there to be technical difficulties interfering with what's going on here. Oh, do. That is so weird. One more thing to check here before we carry on. Oh, very strange. Okay, let's see if that didn't help. I just throttled down the bandwidth that the video should be using. Might look a little fuzzier than usual, but not terribly bad. Hopefully that's going to help. Because I do see that hourglass sitting there on YouTube. What the heck?
Yeah.
Actions.
Yeah, Robin says the sound and video is fine. It just occasionally freezes.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, let's do that and that.
Okay. So, yes, sorry, folks.
Yes.
Live stream technical difficulties. I'm glad that you are here to support us and help us through this difficult time.
And you know, you do the best you can. You only live once, and that's the message of Randy Pausch's speech. Is you only live once, and you want to make this life the best you can. This is a man with extraordinary graciousness and gratitude, who also had a terminal illness, and went out and gave speeches about the kind of life he lived, his perspective on life, and his encouragement that people do live their dreams. It's also a happy birthday to Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Rodney Reynolds, born this date in 1976, makes him 46 years old. That means he's younger than us. How has he done so much, and he's younger than us? No, I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan. I just love that he just exudes this extraordinary benevolence, which is unusual because he plays interesting characters.
What did he play in Free Guy?
He was in Free Guy.
Yes, Free Guy was probably my favorite Ryan Reynolds movie.
Super sweet, super charming, very inventive, very interesting, both in its premise and its execution. And yes, of course, he is well known for being Deadpool. And you know, even though it's a character who projects humor and cynicism and sarcasm, and it's still that benevolence comes across. So I love just about, you know, Ryan Reynolds is one of those people like The Rock, like Dwayne Johnson, who you just want to meet this guy. You just want to know him. You can't put that much benevolence into your movies, into your characters, without having a massive dose of that yourself. You know, maybe my network is down because I fired up too many devices. Today I got out this thing. Now, it might look like an old iPhone, but what this actually has, look how thin that is. This is an iPod Touch. And the iPod Touch amazes me because it does everything an iPhone does except make phone calls. But it's in this tiny sliver of a device. Now, if you go back a little earlier than that, ooh, look at this. You have an iPod with a click wheel. One of the original video iPods, an early iPod. You know, they had them even before this where they didn't do video, but oh, look at that. Go into our playlists here, go to 90s music, play the Christmas songs. Look at that.
Wait, what do you, oh,
This
I
is
remember that.
It's an iPod. Is that crazy or what?
You know, our friend Phil down in Florida actually.
I need to send him this. I need to just send him this iPod.
kind of a janky looking iPod that he kind of like
Well, it's
rewired.
retrofitted.
It's retrofitted. It's rewired. It's all this.
I mean, it looks janky to you, but he's got it souped up with massive capacitors and
he's
just
like, pimp
super.
my iPod.
Yeah, like nothing they've done since then sounds as good, which I believe. I can accept that. The iPod Touch to me was amazing just because it's a computer in this thing that's a 1/4 inch thick. It's just crazy. So why do I mention that? Well, it's National iPod Day. Steve Jobs introduced the world to the very first iPod on October 23rd, 2001. And the crazy thing is, I've got this supercomputer in my hand, more powerful than the first personal computers I ever owned. And yet, on May 10th, 2022, Apple discontinued the iPod Touch, this unit, which was the last remaining product in the iPod line.
Mm-hmm.
There are no iPods anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, people still love them, and you can find them used. You can occasionally find NOS, new old stock units, brand new units,
Right.
but they ain't making them no more.
I remember when, it wasn't Apple, maybe it was Apple, but it was one of those things that it was about this big, and you had this like little